Ask anyone to name the greatest empires of the ancient world, and they will probably say Rome, Greece, Egypt, and maybe Persia. But at the same time as Rome, another titan rose across Eurasia, similar size, same massive population, and arguably the same power. This was a Chinese dynasty, yet most people have never heard its full story. I am talking about the Han Dynasty. 400 years, 60 million people, an empire spanning from Korea to Vietnam to the edge of Central Asia. This dynasty invented paper and opened the Silk Road. They turned Confucianism into the bedrock of East Asian culture for the next 2,000 years. This dynasty is the root of the largest unified ethnic identity on Earth today. So, what actually happened during those 4 centuries of Han rule? How did one family tree define a civilization so deeply that its name never really went away? This is the incredible story of the Han Dynasty. To understand where the Han began, we have to look at what they replaced, and it was a total disaster. In 221 BC, the king of Qin crushed every rival state and united all of China under one crown for the very first time. He took a terrifying new title, Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor. He instantly started reshaping the nation in his own image. Some moves were visionary, like standardizing weights and measures across the new empire. He paved roads and dug canals. He unified the writing system so distant regions could finally communicate. He even laid the foundation for what would eventually become the Great Wall. But he ran China like a cold machine. To him, people were just parts. Forced labor fueled his massive construction projects. Thousands perished building that wall and those palaces. They died building his massive tomb, guarded by the terracotta warriors. He burned books to control every human thought. He buried scholars alive for speaking out. Taxes were crushing. Punishments? Absolute brutality. Small mistakes cost you your hands, your nose, or your life. When he died in 210 BC, everything collapsed. Within 4 years, violent rebellions swept the entire countryside. The Qin dynasty was dead. China shattered into 18 separate kingdoms, all clawing for power. Out of that bloody chaos, 2 men emerged. Shang Yu was the first, an aristocrat, a military genius, and a giant of a man. Charismatic and deadly. He was the type of general who inspired fanatical loyalty. They called him the conqueror of the West. He was the superior commander. His rival was Liu Bang, a commoner from a peasant family and a low-level official. He loved his wine and was known for being charming rather than disciplined. He had no royal blood, 0 military training, and absolutely no rights to rule anything. They fought for 4 long years, a conflict history remembers as the Chuhan Shangjiang, or the Chuhan contention. Shang Yu won the battles. Liu Bang lost them. But Liu Bang was patient, and he listened to better advisors. Plus, he treated the people in his path with far more mercy than his rival ever did. The end came at the Battle of Gaia in 202 BC. Liu Bang's forces surrounded Shang Yu's army. Soon, the trapped men heard the Han army singing songs from their own distant homeland. It was a psychological tactic designed to make them feel like the war was already lost. Shang Yu, seeing no way out, reportedly recited a tragic poem about his horse, then took his own life. Liu Bang won China. He took the title of Emperor Gaozu and built his capital at Chang'an, moving into one of the few surviving Qin palaces. And the Han Dynasty began. Gaozu's first hurdle was massive. China was exhausted. Years of war and Qin's iron fist had left them broken. The population had cratered. Farmland sat empty. People were literally starving. He had to give China a chance to breathe. His solution was simple. Do the opposite of everything the Qin had done. He slashed taxes drastically. At one point, he reduced the land tax to just 1/15 of a household's crop, and later, even lower. He softened the brutal laws. He sent the soldiers home, turning warriors back into farmers. He embraced a philosophy called Huang Lao. It is a Taoist belief that the best government is the one that simply leaves people alone to live. He kept the basic Qin structure. The empire stayed divided into districts run by appointed officials because the system actually worked. But he still had to reward the allies who helped him win. So he carved out the eastern 2/3 into semi-independent kingdoms and handed them to his most loyal followers. He eventually filled those seats with his own Liu family, betting that blood was thicker than political ambition. It was a smart play, but it didn't last. The Lu kings had their own hunger for power, though that storm wouldn't break for years. The immediate threat came from the Xiongnu, a massive swarm of nomadic horsemen ruling the plains north of China. Fast, mobile, and lethal cavalry. They would strike deep into Han lands and vanish like smoke. They had terrorized the borders for ages. Now, under a brutal leader named Maodan, they had unified into a terrifying confederation. In 200 BC, Gao personally led his army to deal with them. It was a disaster. Maodan lured the Han troops into a frozen trap at Baidang, surrounding the entire force for 7 agonizing days. The founder of the Han sat trapped in the snow, waiting to see if he would even survive. He escaped through backroom deals, reportedly bribing the chieftain's wife with expensive gifts and flattery. From that moment on, Han policy shifted to harmony through kinship, which was really just a polite word for tribute. They sent silk, grain, and wine, even Han princesses, into the Xiongnu camps. They bought their peace with gold. It was a bitter pill for an empire that claimed total superiority, but it bought them time to heal and prepare. Gaozu passed away in 195 BC. What followed was a dark chapter. His widow, Empress Lu, was determined to control the succession, and she did. She targeted Gaozu's favorite concubine, the tragic Lady Qi. She had her mutilated and thrown into a latrine, forcing her own son, the emperor, to witness the gruesome result. She purged Gaozu's other sons and ruled with an iron fist for 15 years, essentially turning the court into a family business. When she finally died in 180 BC, the Lu family struck back, wiped out the Lu clan, and crowned Gaozu's son, Emperor Wen. Wen and his successor Jing led a golden age of restraint, keeping the government out of people's lives. Taxes dropped, farming boomed, and the imperial treasury began to overflow with gold. Historians saw a wounded empire finally recovering, but one problem remained. Those semi-independent eastern kingdoms were growing far too bold. In 154 BC, 7 of them launched a massive revolt against Emperor Jing. It was crushed in a brutal 3-month campaign. Jing stripped them of their power. Their royal titles became empty honors, with no actual control over the land. The Han throne was finally supreme. The stage was set for a legendary reign. In 141 BC, 16-year-old Liu Che became emperor. He would rule for 54 years, an 18th century record. He would push boundaries and open the Silk Road. He made Confucianism the bedrock of Chinese life, nearly bankrupting the entire empire doing it. History knows him as Emperor Wu. When Wu took the crown, China had enjoyed 60 years of peace, low taxes, and staying out of foreign wars. The coffers were bursting. The population was exploding everywhere now. Wu looked at all that wealth and decided it was time for action. First, he changed minds. The early court had flirted with Confucian ideas, but Wu's powerful grandmother kept the old, hands-off ways in place. Wu outsmarted her by building an inner court of advisors he could trust. This shadow cabinet of commoners bypassed the stuffy old bureaucracy to get things done his way. When his grandmother died in 135 BC, his path was clear. By 136 BC, Wu founded the Imperial Academy to train new leaders. He made Confucianism the official state code, built around the 5 classic texts. These included the Book of Changes, the Book of Documents, the Book of Odes, the Book of Rites, and the Spring and Autumn Annals. If you wanted power, you had to master these books. This was a total cultural takeover. This was a cultural revolution. It baked Confucian values, hierarchy, loyalty, and social harmony directly into the gears of the state. From then on, every imperial official trained on the same texts, sharing one intellectual language across the empire. By the 2nd century, the Grand Academy hosted 30,000 students. The Keiju civil service exams born here became the blueprint for Chinese rule, surviving in some form until 1905. Economically, Wu made a power move. He seized control of all salt and iron production. These 2 industries were the absolute backbone of the entire empire. Salt preserved food, while iron made weapons. Rich merchants had cornered both markets, amassing wealth that rivaled the emperor's own treasury. Wu locked them under state control. The massive profits bankrolled his endless military expansion. Naturally, this move absolutely outraged the merchant class. Since war was his main focus, Wu decided the old policy of appeasement was finally dead. No more tribute for the Xiongnu. He spent years breeding a massive Han cavalry to beat nomadic enemies at their own game. He even scouted elite riders from friendly nomadic tribes. He built horse ranches on the frontier for a steady supply of war mounts. Between 127 and 119 BC, Han armies invaded Xiongnu lands. His top generals were Wei Qing, a former slave who emerged as a brilliant tactical genius and just happened to be the brother of the emperor's favorite concubine, and Huo Quobing, his nephew, who led armies as a teenager and was maybe even more talented. Together, they pushed the Xiongnu from the Ordos Desert, then cleared the vital Hexi corridor. Finally, at the Battle of Mobei in 119 BC, deep in the Gobi, the Xiongnu Confederation shattered. For the first time in history, the northern border was safe. Wu took that moment to make a move with permanent consequences. He sent 700,000 soldier settlers straight into the Hexi corridor. This long stretch of land between the peaks and the desert was fortified with walls and garrison towns, creating a massive, permanent buffer zone. But it also carved a path, a gateway to the west. This is where Zhang Qian enters the story. Back in 138 BC, long before the wars were over, Wu sent an envoy named Zhang Qian to find the Yuezhi tribe. They had been driven west by the Xiongnu and might just be desperate enough to join the Han against their common foe. But Zhang Qian and his party were caught almost immediately by the Xiongnu. 10 years he spent as a prisoner. He married and had children. Yet when he escaped, he pushed west anyway, crossing the Pamir Mountains to reach Daxia. Today, we know this region as Bactria in northern Afghanistan. By then, the Yuezhi had no interest in fighting the Xiongnu anymore. They had settled down, but in the markets of Bactria, Zhang Qian spotted something impossible: genuine Chinese goods, bamboo staves and silk cloth that could only have originated in China, traded through countless middlemen across thousands of miles of roads the emperor didn't even know existed. He spent a year exploring, got captured by the Xiongnu again on his way home, escaped once more, and finally reached the capital. 13 years later, only 2 men out of 100 returned alive. Emperor Wu hung on every word of his report. He brought intel on Central Asian kingdoms, their armies, their people, and the riches they produced. Wu saw something his envoy missed: a commercial opportunity on a staggering global scale. More missions followed. The path Zhang Qian blazed became a formal trade route protected by Han soldiers. This was the birth of what we now call the Silk Road, or Shichu Zhelu. It wasn't just one road, it was a massive network of paths through Central Asia, linking China to the Middle East and Rome. Silk was the famous star, but it wasn't the only treasure moving along these lines. Rome loved it so much that senators debated banning the fabric because it was literally draining their treasury. It carried spices, glass, ivory, and horses. Even Buddhism traveled these paths from India into China. It carried new ideas, art, and religions across the whole width of Eurasia. Meanwhile, under Wu, the Han Empire was expanding in every direction. Korea fell in 108 BC, and northern Vietnam followed shortly after. Central Asian tribes were absorbed or forced to pay tribute. According to historians, the emperor's massive forces conquered roughly 4.44 million square kilometers of new territory. It was the greatest territorial surge in Chinese history, but land costs money, massive amounts. Monopolies on salt and iron helped foot the bill. Merchant taxes helped too. So did currency shifts until they triggered crushing inflation. By the end of Emperor Wu's reign, the imperial treasury was bleeding dry. Scholars believe the population actually shrank after decades of constant, bloody military campaigns. Then, in 91 BC, a nightmare unfolded inside the palace walls. Political schemes turned into accusations of witchcraft against the royal family. A dark, suffocating paranoia took hold. Wu's own crown prince, the heir groomed for decades, was accused of using black magic against his father. The prince fled, fought a brief battle, and died. Bloodbaths followed as thousands were purged in the terror. It is possible Wu himself gave the order to execute his own flesh and blood. He lived until 87 BC, the world's most powerful man, right until the very end. In those final years, he released a famous decree known as the Luntai Edict. It was an admission of guilt. He confessed his wars caused too much pain and vowed to focus on farming. Was it real remorse or just cold political math? Historians are still divided. Passing at 70, he outlived nearly everyone. Emperor Wu defined the Han Dynasty, forging it into a true superpower in every sense: military, trade, and culture, but he left behind deep scars that would never heal, problems he could not solve. After Wu, the Han entered a strange era where effective leadership was slowly poisoned by deep internal structural rot. The leaders who followed were, with only a few exceptions, remarkably weak figures. They were young, short-lived, or disinterested. But the real flaw was in the succession process itself. It left the throne vulnerable. If an emperor died young or was a child, his mother ruled as regent. Her family, the brothers and uncles, seized the real power. They were known as the outer relatives. Late Western Han history is basically a brutal game of clans fighting each other for total control. These families and palace eunuchs fought over a child emperor who usually had no idea what was actually happening to him. Yet, one bright spot emerged. Emperor Hou Han, who ruled starting in 74 BC, was a tough survivor raised in prison. He was the great-grandson of that tragic crown prince, finally reclaiming his family's lost legacy after the crisis. He took the throne after court officials moved to force out his failed predecessor. Pragmatic and focused on the people, his reign was a brief flash of Han strength and glory. He stabilized the borders, kept the government running smoothly, and supported the Confucian schools that Emperor Wu had first established. But after Hou Han, the old cycle returned. Child kings, power-hungry families, chaos. One family grabbed more power than the rest: the Wangs, especially Wang Mang, the nephew of the Empress Dowager. He climbed the ranks by playing the part of a perfect, virtuous Confucian scholar to the letter. He was modest, gave to the poor, and seemed impossible to bribe. A simple man, he followed every ritual perfectly. The court loved him. By 1 BC, he was officially the regent for a child. When that child died, they just found another boy to replace him. When the next one died, Wang Mang chose an infant to sit on the throne. By then, the mask was slipping. In the year 9 AD, Wang Mang stopped pretending. He claimed the ruling family had lost God's favor. He declared a new dynasty, the Qin, and crowned himself as the first emperor. Historians still argue about who Wang Mang really was. Was he a con man using virtue as a weapon, or a dreamer trying to save a broken system? He was probably both. His radical reforms suggest a man who truly believed in his own mission. He seized land from the rich to give to poor farmers, attacking the elites who held too much power. He even tried to end slavery. He overhauled the currency system. He rebuilt the entire government based on ancient texts he had studied from the classical age. But those ancient books described a world that was long gone. His money reforms caused a total economic collapse. His land grabs sparked a violent rage among the powerful families he had robbed. Trying to run an empire on ancient theory meant he completely ignored the reality of how it actually worked. Then, disaster struck. In 11 AD, the Yellow River shifted course, drowning vast stretches of farmland in Henan and Shandong. Millions of peasants were displaced. Crops failed, and people starved. Desperate, angry refugees wandered the countryside. Out of that pure desperation, a massive rebellion began to grow. The most famous rebel group called themselves the Shimei, the Red Eyebrows. They actually painted their eyebrows bright red, using it as a fierce war paint for identification in battle. It was a symbol of their movement. This ragged band of starving peasants transformed into an army that crushed Wang Mang's forces in open combat. In 23 AD, they sacked Chang'an. They found Wang Mang hiding in a tower deep inside the palace complex. He was killed, and a vengeful mob reportedly kicked his severed head through the streets. His body was literally torn to pieces. The new dynasty lasted just 15 years. China was back in chaos. Out of the wreckage emerged Lu Xu, a distant descendant of the founding family. After years of fighting, he reunified the empire in 25 AD. He moved the capital east to Luoyang and took the title of Emperor Guangwu. The Han Dynasty begins its second act. Emperor Guangwu is easily one of China's most underrated leaders. He did more than just retake the throne. He completely rebuilt the empire from scratch, learning from the fatal mistakes that had broken the Western Han. First, he downsized the military. After a lifetime of war, he demobilized the troops, sending soldiers back to farms to fix the broken agricultural economy. He surveyed every acre of land and slashed taxes for the common people. He pushed Confucian education hard, knowing a trained, unified bureaucracy was the true backbone of a stable empire. More importantly, he restructured the court to strip power from the consort families and the palace eunuchs. Those two forces had rotted the dynasty from within. He ruled until 57 AD, followed by his son and grandson, Emperors Ming and Zhang. Historians call this the rule of Ming, and Zhang widely seen as the peak of the Eastern Han period. Taxes remained low, Confucianism flourished, and the imperial borders were finally secure. As the population boomed, the Eastern Han became a remarkably cosmopolitan society. Silk Road trade exploded. Caravans from Central Asia were reportedly rolling into the capital of Luoyang every single month. Japanese envoys visited in 57 AD and 107 AD. The Japanese king sent tribute and received a gold seal. It was actually found in 1784 and sits in a Fukuoka museum today. The Han court received diplomatic gifts from the Kushan Empire in modern Pakistan and Afghanistan, along with the Parthian Empire in what is now Iran. Then, there is the Roman connection. In 97 AD, General Ban Chao, who spent 30 years securing Central Asia, sent his envoy, Gan Ying, on a mission to find Rome. His goal was to reach the Roman Empire. Gan Ying traveled through Parthia until he hit the shores of the Persian Gulf. Once there, Parthian sailors warned him the sea crossing could take years, and that many sailors often lost their minds. They told him he should think very carefully before attempting to travel any further. He turned back. Historians suspect the Parthians were actually trying to scare him off on purpose. They controlled the lucrative middleman trade, and direct contact between Rome and China would have cut them out entirely. True or not, Gan Ying returned without seeing Rome. But in 166 AD, something arrived from the other direction. A group reached the Han court claiming to be envoys from Da Qin, which was the Chinese name for Rome. They were sent by Emperor Andun, likely Marcus Aurelius. The Book of Later Han officially records this historic encounter. Most experts believe they were actually Roman merchants instead of official diplomats, but the Han court took them seriously enough to document it. Two superpowers, separated by the massive Eurasian continent, had finally made contact or something very close to it. Buddhism was making its own journey along those same trade routes. Born in India during the 5th century BC, it spread through Central Asia via the Silk Road and arrived in China by the 1st century. Buddhist monks were traveling to Luoyang to translate sacred texts into Chinese, bringing new ideas with them. A Parthian prince turned monk established a translation center in Luoyang around 148 AD. The Han court remained curious and tolerant. Emperor Ming reportedly had a dream of a glowing golden deity, which his advisors interpreted as the Buddha himself. So he sent envoys to bring Buddhist scriptures back from India. It might be a legend, but it shows the Eastern Han was truly open to foreign ideas. This era also saw the dynasty's most incredible technological breakthroughs. Crude forms of paper actually existed before the Han dynasty, but around 105 AD, a court official named Qian turned the process into something truly practical and scalable. He used materials that cost almost nothing: tree bark, hemp fiber, old rags, and even worn-out fishing nets. He pulped them in water, spread the mix thin, and dried it. The result? A surface lighter than bamboo, cheaper than silk, and tough enough to last for years. Within just a few decades, paper use exploded across the entire empire. Centuries later, papermaking technology traveled west through the Islamic world, all the way to medieval Europe. It is no exaggeration to say that every book and every newspaper, every single written record in history, after that point, owes something to Qian's humble workshop. In 132 AD, an astronomer named Zhang Hang invented a device that never existed before a seismoscope. He called it the Huangdong, roughly an instrument for measuring seasonal winds and the movements of the Earth. It was a massive bronze vessel, about 6 feet across, shaped like a giant jar, with 8 bronze dragons circling the outside, each holding a small ball in its mouth. When the ground shook, a pendulum inside the vessel swung directly toward the source of the tremor, releasing a dragon's ball into the mouth of a bronze toad sitting below. The direction the ball dropped told you exactly where the earthquake originated. In 138 AD, the machine detected a tremor from the northwest. Officials were skeptical. They felt nothing in Luoyang. But days later, a messenger arrived from Gansu province reporting a massive earthquake. The seismoscope had actually detected an earthquake from hundreds of miles away, Zhang Hang's invention wouldn't be matched in the West for over 1,000 years. Then, there was Sima. He worked during Emperor Wu's reign in the Western Han, yet his masterpiece defined how every single dynasty after would think about history itself. Sima was the court historian. He set out to write a massive history of China, from its mythological origins to his own time. The project took decades. It is 130 chapters long, covering emperors and battles, but also economic history, biographies of everyday people, and histories of foreign nations. The Shiji became the gold standard for every official Chinese history written over the next 2,000 years. What makes Sima's story truly incredible is the price he had to pay for it. He defended a general named Li Ling, who surrendered to the Xiongnu, a move that was politically toxic. Emperor Wu was livid. Sima was given a brutal choice: death or castration. He chose castration, which in Han society was seen as a deep and permanent humiliation. He survived. He kept writing. He finished the Shi. In a letter written afterward, he explained his painful decision. He simply could not die with his work unfinished. History mattered far more than his dignity or his comfort. It still exists today. All of this, the wars, the emperors, the inventions, happened within a society that had very specific ideas about how life should be organized. Understanding that society explains both the dynasty's incredible power and its eventual fall. The Han used a four-tier social structure rooted deeply in Confucian thought. At the very top were the Shi, the scholars and officials, the educated elite who ran the government. Below them were the Nong farmers, respected as the true backbone of the entire economy. Third were the Loewe, the artisans and craftsmen. At the bottom, surprisingly, were the Shang merchants. In Confucian philosophy, merchants didn't actually produce anything of value themselves. They simply moved goods around and took a profit from it. So, despite often being the wealthiest people in the empire, merchants had the lowest status and faced harsh legal restrictions. They couldn't ride horses. They couldn't wear silk. They couldn't hold any government office. The civil service was the ultimate engine of social mobility. If you studied hard and passed the exams, you could rise. This was massive for its time. Most ancient civilizations determined your status almost entirely by the family you were born into. The Han said, "Your brain matters. Your knowledge matters." A bright peasant's son, who mastered the classics, could actually end up advising the emperor. Rich families still held the upper hand when it came to schooling. But that core idea stuck, molding Chinese culture for 2,000 years. Chang'an was a titan, standing as one of the ancient world's massive capitals. It rivaled Rome, peaking at a massive population of roughly 250,000 souls. The walled city featured 12 gates, soaring towers, and sprawling imperial palace grounds. Busy markets stayed under strict watch. Officials policed prices and quality, following Confucian distrust of raw commerce. You could find seasoned meats and pickled jars. Iron, jade, and rare silks flowed in from the famous Silk Road trade routes. Confucian ethics defined every detail of life. Loyalty to family and ancestors formed the bedrock of their entire moral universe. Respect your mother and father, and you'll respect the emperor. Honor your bloodline, and society stays in line. Ancient tomb murals are covered in scenes of family devotion. Tales of legendary, loyal sons and daughters were passed down for generations. Heroes who gave up everything, even their own lives, to care for aging parents. These stories became the nation's moral compass. Life for women in Han China was strictly defined by rigid social rules. A woman obeyed her father, then her husband, and eventually her own grown son. Legally, they had almost no rights. Yet, inside the Han imperial court, some women pulled the strings of power. Empress Luji ruled the empire for 15 years. Later, Empress Wang paved the way for a whole new regime. Powerful empresses acting as regents became a constant force in the messy world of Han politics. During the Eastern Han, a woman named Ban Zhao rose to become a world-class scholar and thinker. Born to a family of geniuses, she finished her brother's massive history of the empire after he passed away. She lectured at court and authored a famous manual called Lessons for Women, a handbook on behavior, preaching modesty, loyalty, and the importance of learning. It's a messy legacy. On one side, it felt like a cage of rules. On the other hand, she was a pioneer, arguing that women deserved an education when almost no one else did. Today, Han tombs reveal the truth about daily life better than any history book. The Han were obsessed with the afterlife. Wealthy families buried their dead with everything they'd need for eternity: jars of wine, fine silks, bronze tools, and even clay models of servants and livestock. The most incredible finds are the jade burial suits. These were made from thousands of hand-cut stones, woven together with precious gold or silver wire. They believed jade could actually stop a body from decaying. Each suit could have over 2,000 separate pieces. They remain some of the world's most stunning relics of any ancient empire. When Emperor Zhang died in 88 AD, the Eastern Han began a downward spiral they couldn't escape. The rot was deep and structural, building up since the very beginning. The throne was designed for strong men, yet it kept being filled by literal children. Emperor. He took command at only 10 years old. Emperor Shang died when he was only 1. Emperor An took over at 13, but cared more about drinking than his people. He let the palace eunuchs pull the strings. Then came a blur of names: Emperor Shang, Chong, and Shi. None of them lived long enough to actually lead. Between 88 and 146 AD, 7 different emperors sat on the throne. Since most were just kids, power fell to the dowager empresses, their greedy relatives, and the rising palace eunuchs. Now, those eunuchs need some explaining. In the Han court, eunuchs, men castrated so they could safely live in the private imperial quarters, served as the emperor's closest personal attendants. They had access to the emperor that no other official could ever get. They knew the emperor's secrets, ran his home, and controlled his visitors. As emperors got younger and weaker, these eunuchs became the real masters of the palace. By the 2nd century AD, top eunuchs were handpicking government officials. They signed laws in the emperor's name and hoarded massive fortunes. This triggered a brutal power struggle that completely paralyzed the royal court. It was the eunuchs versus the empress's relatives versus the scholars, each side viewing the others as corrupt and dangerous fakes. When students and officials finally protested, to protest the eunuchs' power, Emperors Huan and Ling arrested the protesters instead of acting against the eunuchs. In 166 and 169, hundreds of scholars and officials were blacklisted. Many were imprisoned or executed during the partisan prohibitions. The entire intellectual class felt alienated. The empire's best people were punished for trying to fix what was broken. Outside, conditions were deteriorating. Droughts and floods hit the empire repeatedly through the 170s and 80s. Crops failed. Peasants who couldn't pay taxes had their land seized by wealthy families who could weather the crisis. The landless poor flooded into the cities or wandered the countryside. The divide between the wealthy and the poor had never been wider. Then, a man named Zhang Shao appeared. Zhang Shao was a faith healer and Taoist teacher who had been traveling this countryside for years, offering healing to the sick through prayer, confession, and herbal medicine. His movement, called the Way of Great Peace, promised that the Blue Han era was ending and a Yellow Age was beginning. He and his brothers organized massive followings across 8 different provinces at once. In the spring of 184, they finally rose. Followers tied yellow cloth around their heads for the new age, for the earth, and to identify each other. Hundreds of thousands of people rose at almost the same moment across multiple provinces. Granaries were seized. Local offices were attacked. Han army units were completely routed. The Han government's response was the fatal decision that finished the dynasty. Lacking enough regular troops, the court authorized regional governors and local figures to raise their own armies and crush the rebellion themselves. The Yellow Turbans were eventually crushed. Zhang Shao died before the campaigns ended, possibly from illness. The rebellion was over within a year, but the warlords didn't disband their armies afterward. Why would they? They now had troops, weapons, and authority. The center had proven it couldn't protect anyone. In 189, the Han court fell into another succession crisis when Emperor Ling died. A general named Dongzhuo marched his army into Luoyang, removed the heir, and put his own child choice on the throne. He then proceeded to sack Luoyang, burning large parts of the city. He terrorized the population and forced the court to relocate to the old Western Han capital of Chang'an. Warlords then formed a coalition. The coalition quickly dissolved as each warlord realized he was more interested in carving out his own territory than in restoring the Han. China fragmented. Emperor Qian, who took the throne as a child in 189, became a pawn passed between powerful men seeking legitimacy. The most capable among them was Cao Cao. He was not just a simple warlord. He was a gifted administrator, a skilled general, and even a poet. A ruthless operator, he knew controlling the emperor was more valuable than replacing him. From 196 onward, Cao Cao kept Emperor Xian as a figurehead while effectively running the empire's northern half. By 208, Cao Cao controlled the north and prepared to conquer the south. He assembled a massive fleet on the Yangtze. His opponents, Sun Quan and Liu Bei, formed a desperate alliance against him. Their combined fleet met Cao Cao's at the Red Cliffs in Hubei province. What happened next is a legendary moment in Chinese military history. Cao Cao's northern troops weren't used to water. The opposing fleet, led by Admiral Zhou Yu, used fire ships. Vessels loaded with dry reeds and fat were set ablaze and sent sailing into Cao Cao's anchored fleet. The Han fleet burned. Cao Cao barely escaped with what was left of his army. The Battle of Red Cliffs in 208 shattered any hope of reunification. China remained divided. For the next 12 years, the Han Dynasty was a fiction. Emperor Shan held the throne in name only. Cao Cao held the power. When he died in 220, his son Xiao Pai made a final decision. He informed Emperor Qian politely that the time had come to step down. Emperor Qian, who had been a puppet for 31 years, finally agreed. He surrendered the imperial seal. Xiao Pi declared the new Wei dynasty. Emperor Shan was granted a title and an estate, living quietly for 14 years. He died in 234 AD, aged 54. Down in the south, Liu Bei, claiming descent from Han royalty, declared his own dynasty known as Shu Han. He flatly refused to recognize that the mandate had moved. Sun Quan eventually declared his own state of Wu. China was now divided into 3 kingdoms. The Han dynasty, the real one, was finally over. It spanned from 202 BC to 220 AD, 422 years, minus one brief interruption. Today, 1.4 billion people call themselves Han Chinese. It is not a political statement or because a government told them to. Over 2 millennia, the word Han stopped being about a dynasty and became the name for a shared cultural identity, a language, a set of values, a script, and a way of viewing history, society, and the family unit. That level of cultural staying power is incredibly rare in human history. Yet the dynasty that built it vanished nearly 2,000 years ago. The political model, the Han, built a centralized empire run by educated officials, selected through examinations, and guided by Confucian principles, became the absolute template for every Chinese dynasty that followed. The Tang, the Song, the Ming, the Qing, every single one of them was working within the grand framework that the Han had constructed. Paper, perfected during the Han era, literally changed the course of the world. It moved west through Central Asia, reaching the Islamic world by the 8th century. From there, it hit medieval Europe, replacing costly parchment, making books affordable, and enabling the mass literacy that eventually made the printing press meaningful. The Silk Road, which opened under Emperor Wu and secured by generals like Ban Chao, served as the main artery for Eurasian trade and culture for over a millennium. Sima Qian's Shiji, written during the absolute depth of his own personal humiliation, was finished against all odds and became the model for historical writing throughout East Asia. Every official record China produced after that point followed the specific structure that Sima Qian established. Japan, Korea, and Vietnam soon adopted those same historical traditions. How billions of people view the past today is owed to a man writing in the 1st century BC. But the Han wasn't a perfect dynasty. It saw brutal tyrants and incompetent leaders. It suffered through corruption, mass famines, and violent rebellions. But it built something so durable that when the empire fell, its creations did not. The name lived on. The culture survived. The values survived. And that is the complete history of the Han Dynasty. If you made it to the end, thanks for watching. This project was a massive undertaking, and knowing you are interested in this history makes every hour worth it. If you enjoyed this story, hit like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. For more on Chinese history, click the video on your screen right now to watch the full story of the Tang Dynasty.